Welcome to Preservation Pantry's How to Dry Foods Easily. I'm Deanna DeLong, and in the next few minutes, I'm going to share with you many of the tips and techniques that I've learned over the last several years to help you make drying foods at home fun and easy. By the time we finish, you'll know how to dry foods that are better than those you can buy at the store and which are a whole lot less expensive. I began drying 22 years ago. I got invited to a family reunion, and my aunt suggested that I have a taste of her apricot fruit leather. It was just like this. I thought it was delicious, so I asked my aunt, how did you make it? She told me it was pretty simple. All I had to do was to blend up a bunch of apricots in the blender, pour it out onto a cookie sheet, and set it in the sun to dry. I went home and did just that. I had 4 trays of fruit leather sitting out in the hot sun. I went back about 4 hours later, and I had a big surprise. Instead of 4 trays of beautiful fruit leather, I had 4 trays of dried bugs. I thought to myself, there's a little bit more to this than meets the eye. She neglected to tell me that I needed to put screen over the trays of fruit leather. That began my journey, and over the next several years, I dried a lot of foods. I also began teaching food drying classes at the local community college, and I had trouble finding a good book to use. I began to research and decided that I needed to write my own. In 1979, How to Dry Foods was published. It has sold over 1.5 million copies, and it's in its 27th printing. It's used throughout the United States as a top reference for food drying for homemakers, also extension personnel and food editors. Nearly every question that you might have about how to dry foods and how to dry foods easily will be found in this book. Why are dried foods so popular? It's because they taste great. Kids of all ages love them. They're nutritious, healthy snacks for lunch boxes and people on the go. You're going to find that children will try to trade for the fruit rolls you've packed in your kids' lunch boxes. Dried fruits are delicious. In fact, a dried peach tastes more like a peach than a fresh peach does. Now, if you're wondering how that could be, it's because most of the water is gone. The flavor concentrates. In fact, the flavor concentrates in any fruit that you dry. The aroma and fresh strawberry taste is wonderful in a strawberry roll-up that melts in your mouth. Now, let me show you some evidence of how popular dried foods are. You'll find a lot of dried fruit products at your local supermarket. Fruit rolls, pears, pineapple, even apricots. They're delicious. They're also quite expensive, and it's possible to make these at home for a fraction of the cost. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Here are a bunch of ways to save money by drying your own snacks at home. If you buy the fruit rolls in the individual packages, you're paying about $10 a pound for them. If you buy them in box, they're around $8. To make your own at home, you're paying $1 to $2 a pound. It's even possible to make your own fun fruits. I made these by drying applesauce in candy molds. You can also make dried tomatoes at home. If you buy the gourmet sun-dried tomatoes, they're around $12 a pound. To make your own, it's $1 to $2 a pound. Raisins are also fun. You're paying for packaging with raisins. If you buy them in the little individual snack packs, $3.47 a pound. The next larger size up, you're paying $2.70 a pound. Buying them in a 1-pound box, $1.69. If you buy them in bulk, they're as little as 89 cents a pound, but I dried my own for 20 cents a pound. I got a 30-pound box of loose grapes from the produce manager in my supermarket for $3. When I dried those, it figured out to around 20 cents a pound. Dried foods are perfect for today's healthy lifestyles. You can replace the sugar-laden snacks that your family used to eat with dried foods. Unlike canning, you lose very little nutrients. There's no cholesterol or fat. They're high in carbohydrates and even high in fiber. Jerky is also high in protein and a great snack for anybody, anywhere. Another reason that drying foods is so great is that you can put a lot into a little space. A bushel of tomatoes, when they're canned, make about 16 quarts. That same amount when they're dried are 4 quarts. If you take those 4 quarts and flake them in your blender, you'll have 1 quart of dried tomatoes from an entire bushel basket. It's also possible to take a 40-pound box of apples, dry them, and you'll have around 2 8-quart Food Saver canisters complete when you're finished. It's easy to see how drying foods will save you a lot of space in your pantry or your refrigerator or freezer. I'd like to tell you how foods dry and why it's important to use the right equipment to keep the job easy. Now, the only difference between fresh and dried food is the water. All fresh produce has from 60 to 95% water, and it takes water for the food to spoil. When the water is removed from fresh foods, the microorganisms can't grow, and the food's preserved. My grandma used to have apple parties. A bunch of women would get together and peel and core apples and put them up on the top of the barn to dry. But there's a big difference between the apples that my grandma used to dry and the ones that you can make in your kitchen with the help of modern equipment. There are several products that make drying food really easy. Over the last 15 years, I've tried them all. I invited these companies to be with me today and participate in this program because they're the very best. There are several great dehydrators from American Harvest. The Snack Master stacks up to 12 trays, and it's perfect for keeping in your kitchen all year round for drying all kinds of snacks. Now, the Garden Master does larger quantities. You can stack it up to 30 trays. The unique thing about the Garden Master and Snack Master both is that they both have the Convergiflow patented design. There's a pressurized airflow. A powerful fan forces heated air up the exterior pressurized chamber. The air is forced horizontally across each tray, converging on the center core for fast, easy drying. Drying pressure adjusts automatically for the number of trays that you're using. Foods dry a lot faster and better if you don't have to rotate the trays. This is the Vitamix Total Nutrition Center. It's the newest super blender from the Vitamix company. It's nicknamed the Vitamix TNC for Total Nutrition Center, and it's 3 times more powerful than the best blenders on the market. The Food Saver from Tilia is an entire vacuum packaging system. It's the only vacuum packager designed for home use that gives you commercial quality results. With this superior packaging system, the shelf life of your dried foods is 3 to 4 times longer. Having the right equipment really makes drying easy. Part of keeping drying simple is to select the right product to begin with. This kiwi is a little bit overripe. This one is just perfect. If it tastes good fresh, it's going to taste good dried. Another thing is to pick the right variety for drying. A Golden Delicious isn't going to dry quite as well as a Fuji or even a Newton. The reason for that is that this is a tartar, firmer apple. You'll have almost twice as much dried tomato with aroma as you will a beefsteak because the Roma has less water. In choosing the right banana, if you look for one that has a little bit of green at the top but is pretty yellow, it will dry light and have a nice mild banana flavor. If, on the other hand, you like bananas with a strong banana flavor and very sweet, choose your Produce Manager Special. These are 19 cents a pound. Fresh pineapple is delicious dried. In order to choose the best one, smell the bottom. If it has a good pineapple smell to it, it's going to be just right. If you can't smell anything at all, it's not going to be very flavorful. Now let's head back to the kitchen. There are so many fruits that are so easy to dry that simply require washing, peeling, coring, and slicing. We're going to do several of them right now. We're going to start with raisins. Remember the loose grapes that we got at the store? We're going to add a few to this tray. And check and see if you have any moldy ones. Sometimes when you buy the loose grapes, you'll have 1 or 2 that are bad. That one's a little soft. Now this is a fun trick. We're going to wash them straight on the American Harvest tray. These are ready to dry. They'll take around 24 hours before they're finished and look like this. Those are raisins, official raisins made from your very own grapes. Second thing that we're going to do are bananas. Now many of you are familiar with the banana chips that you buy at the store. These aren't really banana chips. They're plantain chips. And this is a plantain banana. A plantain banana is a starchy banana. It doesn't have the fruit flavor that a regular banana does. These are sliced. They're sweetened with a fructose. They are fried in a polysaturated coconut oil or palm oil. And that's how these banana chips are made. They don't taste exactly like banana chips. They taste more like a potato chip. Now I want to show you some fun things about bananas. You can slice them in rings like they do for the regular banana chips, but the disadvantage to that is that you're going to spend a lot of time with it. Instead of doing that, take your banana and run your thumb into the stem end and watch what happens. It falls into a natural third of a banana. The difference in time in doing a banana like this is enormous. You can fill up a tray of bananas in just a minute or two. Watch this. Now another fun thing about bananas is that you can dip them in a yogurt dip or in chocolate. Leave about, probably that much of the banana so that you can use the end for a handle. And those are ready to go in the dryer. Let me wash my hands. Those will be dry in about 12 hours, and they should look like this. They'll be a little bit stiff, a little bit tough. They shouldn't be squishy at all. Those are dry. Now on to one of my favorites, which is kiwi. And kiwi is a rather interesting fruit because it has a special kind of a chemical in it that in about 10% of the people causes a funny feeling at the back of your throat. I happen to be one of them. Kiwi dries beautifully. You can either slice it crosswise or lengthwise. We'll do one more here. The peeling should be taken off before, of course, you put it on the tray. You can slice it also lengthwise or even into halves, and you'll have bigger pieces. I'll slice this one lengthwise. And this is what it looks like. Kiwi takes probably maybe 8-9 hours, and this is what it looks like dried. Everything shrinks to less than half of its original size when it dries. Next, we're going to do papaya. I spent quite a bit of time in Guatemala, and papayas in Guatemala are sometimes 40 pounds. They're huge. I've already peeled this one. Slice it lengthwise. You can make the slices as big as 3/4 of an inch if you want fat pieces and you don't mind it taking a little bit longer to dry. And then remove the seeds. The riper that a fruit is, the more flavorful it'll be. The little fibrous portions that are around the seed should be removed as well. Now, one papaya has totally filled a tray. This will be around 8 hours to dry, as thick as I have it. And this is what they look like dried. Again, they should be a little bit pliable, leathery, with no pockets of moisture. Next thing we're going to do are mangoes, and I love mangoes. The peeling of a mango is pretty simple. And mangoes have a flavor, I think, unlike any other fruit I've ever eaten. Because it tastes kind of like a tropical peach. Mangoes have a very unusual pit, and you have to slice around that pit, and it's a little bit tough to do. Let me get our seeds off of there. Slice it lengthwise. By the way, they're slippery too. It's like trying to handle a slippery fish. Slice it lengthwise and get as close to the pit as you can get. And give yourself one nice big fat slice. Then go to the other side and slice it equally as thick. The two end pieces, you'll go down as close to the pit as you can get, the full length of the mango. My kids are always standing in line waiting to chew on the pit on this one. Now this is what they look like dried. Again, they're a little bit pliable, leathery, without any pockets of moisture. Next, we're going to do a pineapple. Pineapple has a lot of natural sugar in it. And it's one of the very sweetest of all of the fruits. When you cut it thick enough to get into the eyes. When you buy pineapple at the store that's been dried, most of it has been sugar soaked. It comes out of Taiwan and the Philippines. And they have replaced about 60% of the water with sugar. Take off any additional of the peel, any eyes that you may have missed. And now you're going to slice it. And I'm going to slice this as fat as I can to still have it fit on the American Harvest trays, which is about 3/4 of an inch. Now it's possible to leave the core in, and if you leave the core in, it will bubble up just a little bit. If you want to core it, you can take any type of a round core, press it down, and remove the core. And that's ready to put on your tray. We'll leave the cores in those. Again, it's like handling a slippery fish. And that's ready to dry. This is what they look like dried. These were all cored, and you can see how they just kind of bunch up. Now this pineapple, when I put it in to dry, was 3/4 of an inch thick. So you can see how much water was in it. The last thing that we're going to do are fresh strawberries. And fresh strawberries are really fun. They're delicious. They have a fresh strawberry flavor when they're dried, and they only have one problem, and that's that you can eat a lot of them. My 16-year-old can sit in front of the TV and eat easily a flat of strawberries in 1/2 hour show. So you have to decide if you can afford them. Again, you can slice these as thick as will fit on your tray. In many instances, that's just halving them. Cut off the stems, any green portion, and you should snug them up as close as you can get them together on the tray. About 60% of the water comes out when you're drying fruits in the first 3 to 4 hours, and it takes the remainder of the time to get that last bit of water out. With an American Harvest dryer, one of the things that I really like is that it's possible to run 2 dryers at the same time. You don't want to stack fresh fruit and dried fruit or partially dried fruit in the same dryer. I run 2 at the same time, and after about, they're 3 or 4 hours dry, I will consolidate them on one dryer and start a fresh batch on the second one. These are ready to go in. And this is what they look like dried. These are easy. Very, very easy to do. And all of these fruits, plus a couple of others, you can do with absolutely minimal preparation. Another way that you can save time when you're drying foods is to use processed foods. Canned fruits, frozen foods are absolutely wonderful to dry. Let me show you how. Drain the syrup and lightly rinse. We're rinsing them to rinse off the excess sugar because these were canned in a light syrup. Otherwise, they're really sticky when they dry. Turn them so that the pit sides are up and snug them in just as close as you can. Don't want to overlap them at all. Now this is ready to go into the dryer. Now this is what a dried canned peach looks like. There's a difference between this and a dried fresh peach. There's a difference in color, also a little bit of a difference in taste. The texture, however, is pliable and bendy on both of them. Next, we're going to do some pineapple. Drain the pineapple juice. And spread the rings out on the tray, again snugging them as close together as you can. The flavor is a little bit different in a dried canned pineapple than it is in a dried fresh pineapple. Fresh pineapple has a little bit more of a bite. The other nice thing about a canned pineapple is that you can bend it a little bit and squish it in and make it fit more on the tray. This is ready to go in the dryer. The peaches will take a little bit longer than the pineapple will, although we're going to start them out together. This is what they look like dried. Look at the difference in the color with a fresh dried pineapple and a canned dried pineapple. Again, they both have this leather-like texture. The canned has a very chewy, candy-like flavor to it. You can also do pears that have been canned, and those turn out just beautifully. The next thing that we're going to do are frozen cherries. You don't want to thaw them first. Go ahead and put them right on the trays frozen. Make them about 1 layer thick. And if you're using fresh cherries, of course you want to pit them. And even in buying the frozen cherries, you'll find an occasional pit that made it through. There's a really snazzy cherry pitter that's available through the Preservation Pantry or one of the Cook specialty stores that will pit about 60 pounds in an hour. Now, when you're drying a frozen cherry, you need to be careful because it's going to drip as it dries. And after it's been drying for about an hour, take a cloth and clean the bottom of the base, because otherwise it'll get too much and it'll drip down into the holes. That one's ready to dry. And this is what they look like dried. They're cherry raisins, and they're fun to use in breads and snacks. You can put them into a trail mix. Your kids will love them. Using processed foods is a great way to save time and still make delicious dried snacks. There are 4 fruits which need a little special care when you're drying them: apples, pears, peaches, and apricots. Those 4 fruits, when the cut surfaces are exposed to the air, oxidize. That oxidation process causes them to turn brown. When they turn brown, they not only lose color, but they lose a little bit of the flavor, and they also lose vitamins A and C. To slow that oxidation process in drying, you need to pre-treat them. Pre-treating is pretty simple. The #1 recommendation is to use a product called sodium bisulfite. It's a white salt similar to table salt. Dissolve 1 tablespoon in a gallon of water. And you're going to soak the fruit for 5 to 10 minutes. That will dissolve and then it evaporates during that drying process so that very little is left on the fruit by the time it's dried. You can also improve the taste a little bit by rinsing them before you actually put them on your drying trays. Now I want to actually show you how to do an apple. This apple peeler is from a company called Back to Basics. It's available at your local retailer or at the Preservation Pantry. It peels, cores, and slices an apple in about 8 seconds. When you finish, the apple looks like this. Slice it once and add it to the sodium bisulfite solution. I'm going to let these soak for about 5 minutes, and then I'm going to rinse them and put them on the drying tray. These have already been rinsed. Now I want to show you something fun that you can do. Sprinkle your apples with a little bit of red gelatin. And if it's close to Christmas, you may want to use green. Put these on your drying tray to dry. You can also use cinnamon and sugar. You can use plain cinnamon if you don't want the added sugar. Those will dry into a cinnamon apple. And then, of course, we have our plain apples. This is a tray which is already dried. You can see that they shrink quite a bit in drying. And I want to show you one other thing. And that is that when apples dry completely, they're crisp. This is different from the other fruits that you're drying simply because apples are better if they're dried to a lower moisture state. About 5% compared to 15 to 18% for most other fruits. Remember that pre-treatment is a key to keeping the nutrition, the flavor, and the color in apples, pears, peaches, and apricots, and you'll find out even more about that by reading my book. It's easy to make your own fruit rolls at home. You can do it from a variety of different fruits. You just need to have solid sheets to pour them out on. These are from American Harvest, and they're great for drying your fruit rolls. The first thing I'm going to show you how to do is to make fruit rolls from applesauce, the easiest thing you can do. Simply buy canned applesauce and pour it out on the tray. Spread it out so that it's even all the way around, about 3/8 of an inch thick. And that's ready to dry. This is what it looks like when it's completely dried. You can see the leather-like texture, which is great. It should be able to roll just like this. Now, if you want to have a little fun, you can make a polka dot fruit leather. Simply take Red Hots and sprinkle them over the top of the applesauce. When this dries, you'll have a little bit of a cinnamon zing. And let me show you what it looks like. Your children will love it. You can also do things like wagon wheels, and this was made using a turkey baster. I simply used the turkey baster to do the applesauce, and I filled it with the strawberry spokes. A bullseye done the same way. Another thing that you can use are cookie cutters. It's possible to make fun shapes with the fruit roll simply using a cookie cutter. Place a cookie cutter on the tray. Make sure that it has an open top. And using your poultry baster, simply fill it with applesauce. You want to fill it again about 1/4 of an inch to 3/8 of an inch high. Make sure his little feet are done there. Very carefully lift up the cookie cutter, and when that dries, it's going to be a cute little bear. Now, sometimes, if you're busy, you may happen to over-dry your leather. This strawberry leather was dried a little bit too much, and you can see that it's crunchy. Don't despair. Save the individual little pieces, put them in a jar, and sprinkle them on your cereal in the morning. Better than having fresh strawberries. Another thing you can do if you happen to over dry it is to add another layer of fresh fruit onto it. This is strawberry, and we're going to add another layer of applesauce because this one's over dried. When this dries, enough moisture will go from the applesauce down into the strawberry to make it dry the right consistency. And this is what it looks like when it's dried. A two-tone strawberry apple fruit leather. It's also possible to make fun fruits, just like the ones you buy at the store. Simply take a candy mold, fill it with applesauce or whatever kind of fresh fruit you're using. Let it dry. You'll have to fill it and dry it about 4 times to have it fill all the way up. And this is what they look like. You can do them in any shape that you have a candy mold for. Now I'd like to show you how to make fresh strawberry leather. Wash the strawberries, take off the tops, and put them in your Vitamix TNC or your blender. Put the lid on, and if you want to add any sweetening, be sure to use a white corn syrup instead of sugar because it doesn't crystallize when they're drying. If you want the color to stay light, you need to use a little pinch of sodium bisulfite. And a pinch of sodium bisulfite will keep the colors bright rather than turning brown. Turn it on. The wonderful thing about the TNC is that it has such a powerful motor that it even grinds up the strawberry seeds. Let's pour this out on a tray. Again, about 1/4 of an inch thick. Spread it to the edges. And that'll be dry in about 4 to 6 hours. It's fun to make your own strawberry and other flavor fruit rolls, even your fun fruits, and they're a fraction of what they cost at the store. You also won't have any additives or preservatives. One of the keys to keeping your dried food tasting good is to package it and store it correctly. There are 3 things which cause dried food to spoil. One is air, one is heat, and one is light. If you can protect your dried foods from all 3 of those, they're going to keep a lot longer. There are several ways that you can do that, some better than others. One way is to use self-sealing freezer bags. And be sure that it's a freezer bag and not just a regular plastic bag. Regular plastic bags do not have a moisture and an oxygen barrier. Do the best you can to get out the excess air. And if you have a container that you can store these in that will protect them from the light, they'll last longer. The ideal solution is to use a product called the Food Saver. And the Food Saver is a commercial quality vacuum. It takes out the majority of the air out of the packaging. You can package in a Food Saver in several different ways. One way is in the Food Saver bags. This is a fruit roll that has been vacuum packaged. Let me show you how it works. Place the Food Saver bag in the vacuum chamber, the end of the bag in the vacuum chamber. Close it, lock it. And heat seal it. Most of the air is out of that package. Another option is to use one of the Food Saver canisters. They have several that work great. The large canisters go up as far as 4 quarts. This is a smaller one, and they also have the designer canisters. It's also possible to package in regular canning jars simply by using the Food Saver hood. Let's package one now using the hood. This canister now has most of the air out of it. But to break the vacuum, you simply have to push the button on the top, and the air rushes back in. Food Saver bags come either pre-cut or in 8-inch and 11-inch rolls so that you can cut them to fit and get the right size. Remember that you need to protect dried foods from heat, light, and air. The Food Saver system protects them from the air. I keep 4 freezers running full of dried foods. The difference in shelf life between keeping it in the freezer and keeping it on your shelf is 4 to 8 times. You can store it on your shelf and it will last for 6 months to a year. If you keep it in a freezer, it will last from 5 to 8 years. Having the right equipment, using the right packaging, will make your dried foods taste better and last longer. Most dried fruits you'll want to use just as they are. Eat them straight out of the bag. But occasionally you'll want to rehydrate them to use in a recipe. Rehydrating is simply adding water back. Let it soak for 15 to 30 minutes. If you want to do something fun, add a little bit of juice instead of water. After these have sat for a half an hour or so, I'll drain the juice off and they're ready to use in an apple pie. I baked this apple pie this morning using the Jetstream oven from American Harvest. It baked in only 35 minutes. The Jetstream gives conventional oven results, microwave fast. Now another way to use dried fruits is to rehydrate them and use them in breads and other baked goods. This American Harvest Bread Maker Classic makes it easy. In fact, it even bakes 2 loaves at once. Simply add dried fruits to the rest of your ingredients. Set the controls, and in a very, very short time, you're going to have absolutely beautiful results. There are a lot of different ways to use your dried foods. Everyone likes jerky. But at $5.99 for 4 ounces, that figures out to around $24 a pound. Choose the leanest cut of meat that you can find and have your butcher slice it for you. Making your own jerky at home is really easy and it's delicious. You can either make it from ground beef or you can make it from a cut meat. This is a flank steak which I've already cut and is ready to put into marinade. The slices are about 1 inch wide. I've cut it across the grain so that it's a little bit more tender. You can marinate it either in a sauce that you've made from a recipe in my book, or you can use one of the American Harvest seasoning mixes. I'm going to mix it in the TNC with about 1/2 cup of water. Pour the marinade over the fresh meat. And mix it until it's completely covered. And the marinade touches all of the different pieces of the meat. It's possible to food savor the marinade with your fresh meats for several hours and actually decrease the time that you're going to actually have to marinate it. This one was marinating for 6 hours in the refrigerator already. So the marinade has completely penetrated the meats. Let me show you an easy way to make jerky out of hamburger. This is the American Harvest Jerky Works. Simply fill it with hamburger that has been mixed with jerky seasoning and pull the trigger. In 2 to 3 hours, this is going to be dry, and it's going to look like this. It's going to cost you a lot less than the jerky that you're buying in the store. Now, I wanted to share something with you about game meats. If you're making jerky from game meats, be sure and freeze the product for at least 30 days before you jerk it. The reason for that is that game meats may contain harmful parasites, and the drying temperatures aren't hot enough to kill them. The freezing will. I hope that you're going to have fun making your own jerky. It's nice to take advantage of your garden harvest and save it for winter. Herbs dry very well. Simply harvest them early in the morning while the flavoring oils are the best. Put them on your drying trays and dry them at 80 to 100 degrees. Most herbs are best left right on the stem. This parsley, we're going to dry with the stems on. Place it in your dryer 3 to 4 or 5 hours and they're dry. Herbs are really nice to use in sauces, flavored vinegars, and herbed breads. There are some vegetables that require no pre-treatment. Mushrooms, onions, garlic, peppers, and tomatoes simply have to be sliced and dried. Slice mushrooms lengthwise into thirds and place them on your drying trays. Dried, they're wonderful to use in spaghetti or in sauces. And you're going to save quite a bit over the $22.50 a pound dried mushrooms that you'll buy at the store. Peppers are also easy to dry. They also just have to be sliced. And you can dry red peppers, green peppers, chili peppers, even yellow peppers. You don't want to dry peppers or onions with other products because it will cross flavor. Tomatoes are a lot of fun to dry, and they're very, very easy. All you really have to do is slice them. Remove the core. Slice them lengthwise into about half-inch slices. Put them on a drying tray to dry. When they're dried, they can be used in a variety of different products. They're great to use on focaccia, also in spaghetti sauce. I'd like to show you how to flake some in a TNC. Tomato flakes are great to use in any type of spaghetti or tomato dish. They're wonderful to put on fresh salads in the wintertime when tomatoes are $2.99 a pound. Occasionally you'll dry a batch of tomatoes and 1 or 2 or more may turn black. If this happens, you haven't done anything wrong. It's simply because it's a low-acid tomato. They're not harmful to eat, but they don't look very appetizing. Now I would like to talk just a little bit about vegetables that do need pre-treatment. Things like carrots, peas, beans, and corn all dry very well, but they need to be blanched before they're dried. Slice them and then put them into a steamer, either a colander or into your microwave, and steam them until they're heated all the way through. Put them out on your trays to dry. It's also possible to dry frozen vegetables. If you're backpacking and you need a pretty large quantity, all you have to do is pour them out onto a drying tray. These have already been blanched, so you don't have to blanch them first. Make sure that they're just 1 layer thick. And dry them until they're crispy. Vegetables are dried much drier than fruits are, simply because you want the water content lower. To rehydrate vegetables, you need to soak them in water. You can add hot water and it will work faster. Let them soak for a half an hour to an hour before you put them into a super stew to cook. That allows the cell walls to reabsorb the water that's gone out during the drying process and will make it into a tender vegetable instead of a tough vegetable. Take advantage of your garden harvest by drying it. Drying is one of the easiest and most fun activities you'll ever do. You're going to love the delicious foods you'll be making at home. It's an activity that your whole family will enjoy, making and eating. You'll be saving enough to buy a dryer just by making your own. I know that if you try some of the ideas we've shown you, that it will be as enjoyable for your family as it's been for ours, and that drying will become part of your lifestyle. Thanks for joining us today on the Preservation Pantry's How to Dry Foods Easily.